You have been disrespected. Someone looked at you and decided you were unworthy of their restraint. They dismissed you, they mocked you, they undermined you in front of people whose respect you had earned. And in that moment, something inside you ignited, a fire so hot it demanded action, demanded that you remind them exactly what they had just made the mistake of underestimating. That fire is not weakness, but what you do with it determines everything. Because here is the line that separates men who are remembered from men who are forgotten. The powerless react, the powerful respond. And that single distinction, that razor-thin gap between impulse and intention, is the difference between destruction and dominance. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago when kings still bled in the streets. And he didn't write fairy tales. He didn't comfort the weak. He sat in the wreckage of power, watched princes rise on the strength of their discipline and fall on the weakness of their temper. And he documented every lesson with surgical precision. He handed the world a map of power, and most people were too afraid to read it. You are not most people. Not anymore. What you are about to absorb is not theory. It is not motivation. It is operational intelligence, the kind that changes how you move, how you think, how you are perceived from this moment forward. So lock everything else out, because this is the conversation that separates who you were from who you are about to become. The nature of disrespect. Before you can conquer disrespect, you must understand its anatomy. Disrespect is not about you. It never was. Disrespect is a probe. It is a test fired by people who are deeply uncertain of their own position. They push against you not because they are powerful, but because they are terrified of discovering that you are. They want to know if you are a wall or a curtain. They want to know if you are someone to fear or someone to dominate. Machiavelli understood that every room you enter is a battlefield of invisible hierarchies. People are constantly calculating. Every interaction is a measurement. And the moment they sense emotional volatility, the moment they detect that their words carry weight in your world, they will dig deeper without hesitation. This is not cruelty. This is human nature operating exactly as designed. Here is what they will never tell you. When someone disrespects you, they are confessing. They are showing you their fear. A man who is completely secure in his power does not waste energy tearing others down. He has nothing to prove. He is already there. But the insecure, the envious, the ones quietly terrified that you will outpace them, they cannot let you stand tall. Your potential is an indictment of everything they refuse to become. So they strike first, hoping to wound you before you rise beyond their reach. This is why your emotional reaction is the most dangerous thing you own. The moment you explode, you confirm everything they suspected. You hand them a weapon forged from your own anger and watch them use it against you. In the architecture of power, perception is the foundation. Machiavelli did not say be feared over loved because cruelty is wise. He said it because love is conditional and fear is not. But what he truly meant, what every man who has ever commanded real respect understands, is this: be unreadable, because the unreadable cannot be predicted, and the unpredictable cannot be defeated. The weak man's trap. Let me show you exactly what weakness looks like. A weak man gets disrespected and he detonates. His face burns red. His voice cracks into volume. His body moves before his mind does. He believes, genuinely believes, that this eruption is strength. That the louder he gets, the more dangerous he appears. Every single person watching knows the truth. They see a man whose emotional circuitry can be hijacked by anyone bold enough to push the right button. They see a marionette. Pull the string marked disrespect and watch him perform. This is not power. This is a live demonstration of exactly how to defeat him. What you don't need to be strong to beat him. You just need to be provocative. The weak man has made himself a weapon that anyone can aim. Machiavelli called this death in the arena of power. A man who acts from passion has already surrendered the field, because passion is the enemy of strategy, and strategy is the only thing that wins wars. When you are burning, you are blind, and blind men do not win. But the weak man commits a second sin equally fatal. He responds immediately. He cannot sit inside the discomfort of restraint long enough to think. So he fires back with whatever rises first, something impulsive, something small, something that makes him look diminished rather than dangerous. He burns all his ammunition in the opening seconds because he cannot tolerate the silence of self-control. Time is a weapon of extraordinary power. The weak man does not know this, and so he spends his life losing battles he was capable of winning, not because he lacked the strength, but because he could not wait long enough to fight smart. You are done being that man. The Machiavellian mindset. Now let me show you a different architecture of thinking entirely. The Machiavellian feels the disrespect land. He registers every edge of it, every implication, every intended wound. And then he does something the weak man is incapable of doing. He sets the emotion aside like a blade he is not ready to use yet, not because he does not feel it, but because he has trained himself, deliberately, ruthlessly, to separate what he feels from what he decides. Emotion is data. It is information about the situation. It is not a command. It does not get to make decisions. While others react, see with the Machiavellian calculates. While others burn, he observes. He asks himself one question and one question only. What is the most advantageous move I can make right now? Not the most satisfying, not the most emotionally relieving, the most advantageous. This is how emperors think. This is the operating system of every man who has ever shaped history rather than been swept along by it. Emotional detachment is not weakness dressed in calm clothing. It is the most lethal weapon in the arsenal of power. When you refuse to react, you gain something most men never possess in their entire lives. Options. You can respond. You can be silent. You can wait and strike when the moment serves you completely. The Machiavellian is never forced into action by anyone else's timeline. He chooses the battlefield, he chooses the moment, and he chooses the weapon. And here is what makes this mindset terrifying to those who oppose him. They cannot read him. They throw insults, nothing. They spread rumors, silence. They attempt public humiliation. He smiles and walks away unhurried, unbothered, unbroken, and they are left standing in the wreckage of their own attack with one question lodged deep in their chest. What does he know that I don't? That question is where your power lives. Cultivate it. Protect it. Never give anyone the satisfaction of an answer. Silence as a weapon. There is a weapon that costs you nothing, requires no physical strength, and can break a person faster than any insult ever could. Silence. When someone disrespects you and you say nothing, nothing. Something shifts in the room. The air changes pressure. The crowd turns. The attacker, mine who prepared for war and built their entire move around receiving a reaction, suddenly finds themselves standing alone in the echo of their own attack. They expected a fight. You gave them an empty room. Now they are the spectacle, not you. Silence dominates because it refuses to validate the attack. It communicates without a single word that this person exists below the threshold of your response, that their opinion does not register in your world, that you have measured them and found them unworthy of your energy. Nothing, not a perfect comeback, not a threat, not a precisely aimed insult, destroys a person the way that realization does. Machiavelli understood that every interaction has a frame, an invisible structure that determines who holds power in the exchange. When you explode, you surrender that frame completely. So you are performing on their stage, under their lights, to their script. But when you go silent, you rip the frame from their hands. You force them to improvise. You make them doubt. You make them wonder what quiet storm is gathering behind your eyes. This is psychological warfare without firing a single shot. Silence also allows your enemy to condemn themselves in public. When you say nothing, every eye in the room shifts toward them, and what those eyes see is desperation, pettiness, and insecurity exposed without cover. You do not have to destroy your enemies. Step back, let their own behavior consume them while you stand untouched in the wreckage they created. Master this weapon. The powerful have always known this secret. Now you do too. Strategic retaliation. Hear me clearly. Silence is not surrender. There are moments when a response is not just appropriate, it is required. There are moments when allowing disrespect to pass without consequence is itself a signal, an invitation for more of the same. The Machiavellian does not avoid all conflict. He chooses his conflicts on his own terms. The difference between the weak man's retaliation and the Machiavellian's is not whether they strike back. It is when, how, and with what precision. The weak man swings immediately, emotionally, wildly, and misses and looks unstable and has spent all his ammunition on a moment that demanded patience instead. The Machiavellian watches. He observes. He waits for the moment his enemy lowers their guard and assumes the conflict has been forgotten. That is the moment. Cold, surgical, devastating. Machiavelli was absolute on this. A wise man never takes revenge while angry. Anger clouds judgment. It makes you rush. It makes you reveal your hand too early. But when you wait, when you let the heat die and the mind sharpen, you see openings that were invisible before. You identify the perfect point of entry. And when you finally move, it must be decisive. Half measures send the worst possible message. They signal that you are willing to fight, but not willing to finish. A decisive response sends a message not just to the person who wronged you, but to every single person watching. It establishes the cost of crossing you. It builds the wall that prevents the next attack before it even forms. But understand this. Retaliation is not always loud. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can do is simply withdraw. Remove your presence. Pull back your support. Show your resources, your investment in someone who disrespected what you brought to their world. Disappear from their ecosystem and watch them struggle with the weight of your absence. They will not understand what happened until the consequences have already compounded beyond repair. You do not announce your revenge. You execute it in silence. And by the time they realize what happened, it is already done. The art of indifference. There is something more brutal than anger, more final than revenge, more suffocating than any threat you could ever make. True indifference. Not performed indifference, not the act of pretending to be unbothered while rage quietly melts your insides. Real, structural, bone-deep indifference. The state in which the words and actions of small people literally cannot reach the altitude at which you operate. They exist below your awareness, below your concern, below even the courtesy of your contempt. This is the most insulting message you can ever send another human being. Not I hate you, not I will destroy you, but you do not exist to me. This obliterates people, especially those who attacked you hoping to provoke a reaction, hoping to matter to you even as an enemy. Because even hatred is a form of acknowledgement. But indifference says you are so irrelevant that I cannot locate you on the map of things worth my attention. You are background noise, a shadow I walk through without noticing. Machiavelli understood that attention is currency. Whatever you focus on, you elevate. Whatever you engage, you validate. When you argue with fools, you lower yourself to their floor. When you defend against every accusation, you lend credibility to accusers who have not earned it. But when you are genuinely indifferent, you cut off the oxygen that keeps their significance alive. They scream. You build, they plot, you rise, they obsess over you. You have already forgotten their name. This is how you become genuinely untouchable. Not by winning every battle, but by being so consumed by your purpose that most battles do not even register as worth stopping for. Your energy is finite. Guard it like it is the last resource on Earth. Because functionally, it is. Cultivating indifference is a discipline. Your ego will resist it violently. Your pride will scream that you must respond, must defend, must prove yourself. Override it every time. Ask one question whenever disrespect comes your way. Will this matter in the long run? If the answer is no, and it almost always is, close the door without a second glance. The man who cannot be baited cannot be controlled, and the man who cannot be controlled is the most dangerous presence in any room he enters. Building an untouchable reputation. The most powerful protection you will ever have is one you never have to activate. A reputation so solid, so deeply established in the minds of those around you, that disrespect becomes an act most people will not risk, not because you are cruel, but because you are known, because the cost of crossing you is understood without needing to be demonstrated. Your reputation walks into rooms before your body does. It fights battles while you sleep. Build it correctly, and it becomes armor you never have to put on. Machiavelli wrote extensively about this. He understood that perception often matters more than reality. What people believe you are capable of determines what they will dare to attempt against you. First, become undeniably excellent. Power respects competence. When you are genuinely extraordinary at what you do, even your enemies cannot dismiss you. They may hate you, they may envy you, but they cannot ignore you. Skill is the hardest armor to crack because it is earned and not claimed. Every book you absorb, every discipline you master, every obstacle you meet and defeat, these are not achievements. They are bricks in a wall that surrounds you. Second, be unmovable under pressure. People remember everything about how you handled the moments when it cost something. Did you hold or did you crumble? Consistency under fire is the loudest reputation builder that exists. And break once and that moment follows you. Hold again and again and again, and people stop testing you. They learn that you simply do not break, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. Third, enforce your boundaries without apology. A reputation without enforcement is decoration. When someone crosses the line, your response must be firm, deliberate, and visible enough to register as a precedent. Not emotional, not excessive, but clear. Once that is established, the attempts become rare. The risk is simply not worth the consequence. Fourth, control your narrative. Others will try to define you in whatever way serves their interests. Reject this completely, not through argument, but through action. Move in ways that build the image you intend. Let your behavior accumulate into a story no one can dispute because they watched you write it. So fifth, embrace mystery. Do not explain your every move. Do not give people the satisfaction of complete understanding. The incomplete picture is more powerful than the full one. Let people wonder about the full extent of what you are capable of. That assumption is protection. That assumption is power. Build this reputation daily, in every interaction, in every decision, in every moment when it would be easier to break than to hold. When your name alone commands gravity, when people recalibrate simply by knowing you are in the room, disrespect becomes an act only the genuinely ignorant will attempt. The dark psychology of power. If you want to command power in the real world, you must stop operating in a fantasy version of it. Most people move through life with a blindfold on, assuming goodwill, assuming fairness, assuming that others are who they appear to be. They trust too fast, they forgive too cheap, and they get systematically destroyed by people who see the world without that blindfold. Machiavelli did not write for dreamers. He wrote for realists, men willing to see human nature as it actually functions and use that understanding as a competitive advantage. This is dark psychology, not manipulation as cruelty, but clarity as armor. People operate from self-interest. Always. Even the apparently generous act is a calculation, approval being purchased, future favor being banked, status being accumulated. This is not cynicism. This is observation confirmed by centuries of documented human behavior. The moment you accept it, you stop being a pawn. You start seeing the move before it lands. Suddenly you start asking the only question that matters in every interaction. What does this person actually want from this exchange? That question alone puts you ahead of most. Envy is invisible, and it is everywhere. The people smiling widest at your success are often the ones most quietly unsettled by it. Your rise reminds them of every choice they did not make. They will congratulate you and undermine you in the same breath, often without fully realizing they are doing it. Watch for the signs, the compliment that diminishes while appearing to praise, the support that arrives just slightly too late, the friend who disappears when your wins become too consistent to ignore. Recognize these patterns without drama and adjust your trust accordingly. Fear is a more reliable motivator than love. Machiavelli was clear. Love is conditional, and it fades when convenience demands it, but fear of consequence lingers. It controls behavior even when you are not present. This does not mean you must terrorize people. It means you must be someone who cannot be crossed without cost. When people understand that crossing you has consequences, they regulate themselves. They think twice. They show respect not out of admiration, but out of understanding. Finally, watch how people treat you when they believe they have leverage over you. That is their real character. The mask only stays on as long as they perceive you as capable of consequence. The moment they think you are weak or desperate, the mask slips. Use that knowledge. Never forget what it revealed. Dark psychology is not about becoming a predator. It is about removing the blindfold so you stop being prey. Cut the final command. You made it here, but arriving means nothing. Everything you have absorbed is worthless if you do not apply it. Knowledge without action is sophisticated entertainment, and you did not come here to be entertained. You came here because something in you recognizes that the version of yourself you have been living as is not the version you are capable of becoming. You felt that gap. You have always felt it. Today, you start closing it. Here is your command. It is not complicated, but it will cost you everything comfortable and weak in your nature. Become the man who cannot be touched, not because you hide, not because you avoid, but because you have built yourself, your mind, your discipline, your emotional architecture, your reputation, into something the world cannot break, cannot read, cannot predict, and cannot control. This is your war now, not with enemies outside you, with the version of you that still reacts before he thinks, that still hands power to people who have not earned it, that still burns in public and calls it dignity. That man must be eliminated, not gradually, not when it becomes convenient. Now, completely, without ceremony. Kill him with silence, kill him with discipline. Kill him with the relentless, daily, unglamorous work of becoming someone this world did not expect and cannot easily dismiss. From this moment forward, disrespect does not trigger you. It informs you. It tells you exactly who you are dealing with, exactly what they fear, exactly how far beneath you they are operating. You receive it like intelligence. You file it, and you move. You will pause when others explode. What you will breathe when others break. You will observe when others perform, and when you finally choose to act, when the moment is yours, the ground is yours, the terms are yours. Your response will land like something that was inevitable from the beginning. Because it was. Machiavelli handed us the blueprint 5 centuries ago. Human nature has not changed. The arenas have new names. The weapons look different. But the mechanics of power are exactly what they were when kings bled in Italian courtyards. Master them. Apply them without apology. No one is coming to make you powerful. Not your history, not your circumstances, not your bloodline. Only the daily decision, made in the small moments, the invisible moments, the moments when no one is watching, to become someone different than the version of you that walked in here. React or respond. Break or hold. Slave to impulse or master of fate. The choice was always yours. Now you have the tools to stop making it wrong. Say it. Not as a wish, not as a hope, as a declaration of what you are already becoming. I am untouchable. Mean it. Walk like it. Build like it. Every single day until the world has no choice but to agree.